this edition of Talking Preps, pleased to be joined by Jody Grant, head football coach at Bentonville. Jody, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Doing real good.
What have practices been like this week? I know it's been great just to get back on the field, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think practice has been awesome because, what we talk about is the opportunity that we're getting and taking advantage of it because, we were real close to, for a long time we didn't know what we were going to get. And so the opportunity to be out there, I think for every player and every coach, it's just a little bit more sweet just because, we're getting the opportunity. It's different and it's tough. Probably the hardest part is making, these kids are so used to migrating together and being together on the sidelines. And that's probably been the biggest chore for me is I feel like I'm a social distance police, walking around the field, making sure they're spread out and masks, we when they're not participating, their masks are on. And but we're working through it and we'll continue to do that so we can play.
As a coach, that's probably tough too because you're used to going in and, get with them and show them how to do this. How do you adjust to that? Is that tough?
Yeah, that's real tough. One thing that, as a coach after a practice, you're used to bringing all your guys together, sitting them on a knee and talking to them. And, we're doing that, but we're doing it, using the whole half of a football field where they're all spread out, 6 feet apart or more. And I'm just screaming at the top of my lungs and hoping they can hear me. But I'm having to do more and more of my communication through Remind 101 and through group texts and just different ways of communicating. So I can still get the information to them to make sure they're understanding what I'm saying, what I'm trying to tell them out on the field.
What kind of precautions have you had to put in place and how long does it take to implement those before you can go on the field?
Yeah, so if you're comparing practices now and film sessions now and team meetings now compared to a year ago, it's different in a sense of each player has a check-in process. Which is a lengthy compared to just walking in the gate. Then we only allow the locker room, we only allow 33% capacity at this point. So we're having to send the kids in waves. And then obviously with the practices, having them spaced out. But more than anything, where I notice a significant difference is in our film room and meeting rooms because we have to do it different because we can only allow a certain amount in there at a time to keep them spaced out properly. So we've made the adjustments and we've done it. And it's like today we're doing a virtual film session. And I don't think that that's all bad. I think that's probably something that we've learned how to do and probably will utilize that more and more. But you also like to see the kids and be with them through those meetings and film sessions. But we've done them both and it's been different. So, but like I said from the start, hey, we'll do whatever we have to do to get to play this game.
And speaking of that, I would assume you've talked to your team about what they need to do away from the football complex in order to make football happen. How much do you do that daily? Do you once a week? How do you address that?
Yeah, I do it daily because I use examples of when they're with me and they're not following the guidelines that we need them to so we can play. I use that as an opportunity to remind them. It's, I talked to our seniors just yesterday. I said, this is your time. This is your senior year. And it's got to be, you got to think about this stuff because it's so important because you don't want, because I told them, as crazy as this sounds, I said, you may get with a group of your buddies that don't even play football and y'all may get in the car together and ride to go get ice cream or do something, but you don't know where those people have been or who they've been around. And all of a sudden, you're in a car and one of them has it, and now you have to be quarantined for 14 days, and you might miss a couple games because of somebody you didn't even know or over a trip to ice cream that you didn't even need anyway. So I just use those little – that's a silly example, but it's just an example, and we just talk about that because even you got to be able to control who you're around and know where they've been, and that's going to be telling some people no that – normally you'd say yes to. It's, whether it's like, fishing trip somewhere with a bunch of guys that you're out in a boat with them, you can't separate from those guys. So it's a different lifestyle for some of them, but if it's important enough to them, they'll do it. And that goes with the coaches as well. We've all had to make, all of us, everybody has had to make sacrifices to protect themselves from the virus. And so we'll continue to do that. I do believe that one of the safest places for these kids to be right now is with us because we are requiring them to follow those guidelines. When they go home, and do their own thing. I don't know. I mean, obviously their parents are, but they're not here. They're required to do it to be here. So I think that makes school, as crazy as that sounds to some people, a safe place for our kids.
No, I don't think that's crazy at all. I think that makes the most sense because they're going to be in a controlled environment, and that's the big unknown is when they leave, you don't know where they're going. So, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I guess as we record this, today's the big day. It's Friday. We're waiting to hear from the governor because if, according to the AAA schedule, correct, you could have contact Monday if we go by the calendar, but everybody's kind of waiting to see what happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're getting some information from the governor that will, let us know how we proceed moving forward, and we'll, just like last Friday, it's like a watch party, anxiously awaiting to see.
Yeah, it's tough. Now, we've already seen three, I believe, football programs in the state post or quarantine for 14 days. The season's getting close. This is kind of a nerve-wracking time for coaches, obviously, because we've never been down this road before. You're having to adjust on the fly, and you've also got one eye on the schedule, which is 3 weeks away. Man, is it just the most stressful time ever for a coach?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you've got schools that are quarantining. You hear stories of other states. You hear all this stuff, but like I tell our kids, is we're going to move forward with a positive mindset. And just keep doing it one day at a time. Mindset. I think you make yourself go crazy if you don't operate that way. And the good news is I do think our governor wants our kids playing and participating and doing it right. And I think he trusts that the coaches across the state of Arkansas are doing everything they can to keep all kids safe, and so hopefully we'll move forward, as we normally would, and go from there.
We hear often about how football teaches you about the game of life, and given everything that's going on right now, I mean, this is a difficult time, but this is also a very important learning time for these kids, is it not?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's so much going on right now with these kids. It's just it's a difficult time. It's a huge learning time. Not just football, but just in life in general, what they're going through and what their experience. There's so many things to think about with kids. A lot of people don't, you know, kids' families have been, their world's been rocked a little bit by this pandemic that we're going through, with loss of jobs and loss of wages, or just, families working from home, it's just different, and it's hard for us all to work through. And so we have to be pretty sensitive to kids and their situations and scenarios. I mean, on a normal year, if a kid misses practices on a regular basis, they don't really stay in our program. We really require them to be consistent or have a general good reason to miss. I've been very lenient this year because of the situation, because I have to have to understand what people are going through. I don't know what my kids are going through at home. I don't know what their situation is. So I just tell our kids, listen, just let me know if you can't be here. I understand their situation's going on. We'll work together through this. And that's worked for us so far, been pretty good.
How hard is it to not really be able to plan long term and have to go day by day? Is it so
It
different
is.
from what you normally do?
Yeah. You're normally, so scheduled out. And so, we would have had, like our summer schedule would normally be out in February, March, and then our fall schedule and what we're doing through fall camps all ironed out. We've had that, but we've also had other schedules too. Like I remember last week before the governor said his deal, we had two plans. If the governor says it's a go, we're going to do this. If he says it's not, we're going to do this. And so we just kind of, I've learned to operate like that. And, it's working so far, but I think we'll continue to run into some obstacles that we'll have to discuss and work through. Um, but that's what we've been doing this entire time. I think the best thing is we find a way to make it work for the good of our kids. And it's worked so far.
You're not doing it alone. You've got administrators helping you. You've got support staff helping you, and they have, I would imagine, been invaluable during this whole ordeal, right?
Yeah, it's really nice to be able to lean on people that have your back in situations when you're dealing with something so sensitive as the virus and in these circumstances. So our administrative team, our athletic director and a principal and, our superintendent have been just phenomenal as a support system for this. And, you've got parents that are concerned and they put a lot of trust in you to take care of their kiddos. And, it's like I tell our coaches, treat every one of these kids as you'd want your own personal kid treated, and with respect to this, because people have varying opinions on this. Some people are one way and some people the other, and we have to respect those kids and their parents' opinion on the virus, and whether it's our opinion or not, and roll with it. And so we've been fortunate to have good leadership through this. I really believe that our school district has a good plan in effect, and we've been utilizing it, and it's been good so far.
Participation wise, have the numbers been pretty much like they always have been? Have you noticed a decline at all?
We've probably had a small decline, and I personally relate that to all that time off and time away. Some kids thought, this isn't so bad. I can, it's more video games I can play and more, but not a whole lot. I mean, we've probably, if we normally carried, say 140, we might be at 132 at this point or something. So maybe 7 to 8 kids. And I would say that's probably percentage-wise similar to most programs. But we also have some, and on the flip side of that, we've also had some kids that are like, I don't like any part of this. I've never played football, but will you let me try it because I want to do something. So it's worked both ways.
Yeah, kids are looking for structure right now. Normally we're looking at school would normally be starting next week, possibly. It's not, but they're looking for structure at this point in the year. And come August, are they not?
No doubt about it. Yeah, they want structure. And truthfully, they want structure. They want to be held accountable, and they want discipline. They'll never admit it, but those kids want that. They want to be held accountable. They want to want to do right, and and some most need to be held accountable to that. And what better place than being in a football program at a school?
Well, no doubt about it. And today is obviously the big day. I'm sure the watch party will be at 1:30 to see what the governor has to say. If for some reason you don't go to contact next week, is there a point where you're going to have, how many days of contact would you need prior to the first game, do you think? To be fair to
yeah, I think that you get different opinions of that. I think our kids are ready, but I do think you need to have, like a 10-day period where you're banging a little bit, because there's going to be some soreness and some muscle fatigue and the pounding that they take. So I think if he doesn't allow us to move into full contact, it'll be a little bit of a setback. But I do think most coaches can have their kids ready to go obviously from a physical conditioning standpoint, and from a mental standpoint. It's just the abuse that the body takes. That could they do it? Yes. Would there be some potential, some more injuries than maybe before? Yes. But I also think as we've fought through this whole thing, we got to be prepared for that and be accepting of that if that's what he tells us to do.
Yeah, and I think also it's only fair to the kids to allow them to have some kind of contact and full team drills. Just from an aspect, you can't expect them to go out there and they want to perform at a high level.
That's right.
And if you don't give them that opportunity, well, that's not really fair to them to expect them to compete, because they have high standards and they haven't had the ability to kind of work up to that.
Yeah, I agree. And so, hopefully we'll get to move forward and give these kids the best chance to have success as we start the season.
No doubt about it. Well, hopefully we got a great announcement today, and next time we talk, we can actually talk about the upcoming game.
Won't that be great? Sounds great.
That will. Thank you so much, Jody.
Bet. Take care.